Okay, good morning for everybody that's going to be watching this. On Saturday night, I had a stream with Halsey English on his channel, so please check that out. It's Halsey News, I think his channel is called. Tonight, Sunday night, I'm going to be having a stream with Just My Stupid Opinion concerning Farrakhan feminism. Now, the topic for right now is something that I missed over the Friday, Saturday night. News stream, which was that you had the firing of Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI. He'd been, I think, within 48 hours of retirement, eligibility for full retirement. And a lot of people, I think, are they're latching on to the idea that this is cruel or whatever. Look, if anybody thinks it's cruel to fire somebody before retirement, consider the fact that due to McCabe's actions, you had a four-star general in Michael Flynn, a Marine Corps general, basically raked over the coals, threatened with prison time over some phone calls during the Trump transition process. Okay. They were trying to basically concoct some sort of way that they could put this man in prison as a means to get him to turn against the Trump administration and for the basically for an impeachment process to ensue with the cooperation of the soft Republican Party and things like that. That was their whole game. Andrew McCabe knew probably from the beginning, and so did James Comey, and so did these other law enforcement and intelligence officers, that there was no crime to be investigated. The idea behind the RussiaGate plot that they instigated was not necessarily to convict somebody of an actual crime or unveil anything that was going on with respect to ties between Russia and Donald Trump. It was to create an atmosphere where you would think that this administration is in chaos and that that there would be some infiltration by Russia and that the country had become weaker. And what's happened instead is, due to the work of a lot of people online and some people in the establishment media, a few people. Sarah Carter, I think, is on the borderline, but you can certainly say Hannity. You can certainly say, Julian Assange. The alternative media has been the engine that has eroded their plan. If there would have not been alternative media, how do you think people would have figured out that so many of these FBI officials were basically peddling a lie? They had virtually no evidence on anybody involved in the scandal. The scandal doesn't even exist. You would have to rely basically on congressional hearings that a lot of people don't even watch. And without the public pressure of alternative media, it's very likely that the Republican Party would have gone along with this whole plan and basically sold out Flynn and the Trump administration and everybody else. Now, let's be clear, if I thought that there was real collusion or work between Donald Trump and Russia or whatever, yeah, I'd be in favor of prosecutions or whatever. But the evidence has been so spotty and so shoddily put together, and where it exists, if it exists, and I don't even think it does, that it's time to really talk about what to do with the people who put this together. And firing somebody before their retirement is really a minor measure to be taken. The things that should really be done are basically nailing them to the wall in terms of everything legally possible. If they made false statements to Congress during these hearings, and those were hearings that both parties wanted, I would say that it's time to really tighten the screws on these people, which would include Comey, it would include McCabe, it would include CIA Director Brennan, It would include people like James Clapper, who already perjured himself when there was the NSA spying scandal. Remember when he said that, the NSA does not open people's emails and does not surveil people, does not look into their personal files and things like that. Not Americans. Well, he lied. It was proven that he lied by Edward Snowden. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump and the Russia investigation. They've basically blown the cover off of the entire surveillance community's underhanded surveillance. Well, the surveillance community's underhanded policy of looking at every American as a potential criminal. That's basically what you would say here. And Michael Flynn happened to be a victim. And he was the director of national intelligence under Barack Obama. Okay, he was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency first, and then later was kicked upstairs to be director of national intelligence. And later he was basically frozen out. And because of his refusal to go along with Obama's failed national security policy, that he was one of those people that switched over and started supporting eventually Donald Trump. So that's why this all happened. Now, why am I talking about Flynn being, or not Flynn, but McCabe causing new legal problems for other people? And this could be a vehicle for creating real reform in the FBI. Well, according to John Turley, the OIG investigation, that's the Office of Independent, or the Inspector General, the Office of the Inspector General investigation, has focused on information I chose to share with a reporter through my public affairs officer and a legal counselor. This is McCabe's statement to after getting fired. Okay. As a deputy director, I was one of only a few people who had the authority to do that. It was not a secret. It took place over several days, and others, including the director, were aware of the interaction with the reporter. Turley notes there was one line in the case statement last night that I immediately flagged, because he said that he had authority to do this, and he conferred with the director. The director at the time was James Comey. Now, the problem there is that James Comey said under oath that he never leaked information and never approved the leak, said Turley. So if the Inspector General believes this was a leak to the media, it raises serious questions about Comey's previous testimony and could get him into serious trouble. So there's already a number of areas where Comey is in trouble with the FBI, with respect to the consistency of his testimony before Congress. Turley also wrote in The Hill, McCabe is accused of misleading investigators about allegedly giving information to a former Wall Street Journal reporter about the investigation of Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family's charitable foundation. McCabe asserts in his post-firing statement that he not only had authority to share that information in the media, but did so with the knowledge of the director. The FBI director at the time was Comey. If the interaction means leaking the information, the McCabe statement would seem to directly contradict statements Comey made in a May 2017 congressional hearing. By the way, I think I watched that hearing live. Asked if he had ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation, or whether he had ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration, Comey replied, quote, never and no. So here's former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker said on Friday that the upcoming OIG report will contain some pure TNT whenever it comes out, which should shed more light on the FBI's transgressions surrounding the 2016 U.S. election. The timing of McCabe's statements and Comey's apparent perjury comes at an inconvenient time for the former FBI director who's selling $100 tickets to attend stops in his upcoming book tour to promote a higher loyalty, truth, lies, and leadership. As Turley notes, if he gave McCabe the green light for his interaction, the title could prove embarrassingly ironic. Well, yes. And, I think one of the issues that I'm wondering if the FBI should try to basically say, well, yes, you could publish your book, but you can't profit off of basically using information from your time as an FBI director, we're going to have to approve a lot of this stuff. Because this guy, James Comey, if he basically perjured himself before Congress and told the lie that he never authorized anybody to leak anything, this book could be full of all sorts of other crap that he supposedly would say, oh, it's not actually classified. Well, who's to say that it is? Now, that's where we get into the dangerous territory of what is censorship and what's not censorship. Well, classified information, classified by the FBI. Unfortunately, we have to fight for, through FOIA requests often to get it public. Judicial Watch, which is an organization that I love watching their updates. They're great with Tom Fitton. They have to go through FOIA requests and fight in court to get it. Why should James Comey, just because he's the FBI director and now the former FBI director, be able to declassify stuff, just on his own discretion? That's not the way classification of information is supposed to work. And then you get more information about the stuff that happened with regards to indicting Michael Flynn. So I'll just show this real quick because we don't have all the time in the world just to read through everything. But Strzok and Page plotted covert meeting with presiding judge in the Michael Flynn case. So this is from National Review. I also have a link to another one by Sarah Carter, who's also an amazing journalist right now. It says, two federal law enforcement officials who were removed from special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation for exchanging partisan text messages conspired to set up a meeting with the presiding judge in the case against Michael Flynn, according to text messages obtained by the Federalist. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court Judge Rudolph Contreras was recused from the case days after Flynn, who briefly served as a White House National Security Advisor, pled guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russians. Officials never provided a justification for his recusal. The text messages between Peter Strzok, who briefly ran Mueller's probe as the FBI's #2 counterintelligence official, and Department of Justice lawyer Lisa Page, reveal the pair had a personal relationship with Contreras, which they seemingly attempted to leverage to influence Flynn's case. So then they talk a little about some sort of some dinner party they wanted to put together with them or something. And what this puts into perspective is that personal relationships are important at levels like this of government, but not between the executive branch of government, which the FBI is part of, and some of these agents, and the judicial branch of the government, which is this judge. So if you have prosecution, a prosecutor, Lisa Page, and an agent of law enforcement like this Peter Strzok guy, and then they're meeting this judge Contreras at his house or somewhere else, and talking about a case like this, that could mean serious ethical violations for all three of them. I think that getting disbarred, like I said with Andrew McCabe, getting your retirement canceled and revoked is just a small punishment for what he did and what's been caused. Ultimately, Michael Flynn's crime of lying to the FBI cannot be demonstrated to have caused an actual tangible damage to national security or anything else. So what did happen here, however, was that you had inappropriate contact concerning a criminal case between law enforcement, the prosecution, and the judge. And that type of stuff, imagine if your relative, let's say your nephew, gets arrested on cocaine possession, and it was discovered that the people who arranged their arrest, the police officer who arranged their arrest, and the prosecutor who's bringing him up on charges, and the judge who will hear the case, dined the previous week at let's say a seafood restaurant, and then discussed over dinner how are they going to bust your nephew. yeah, that would be grounds for a definite, um, probably not just recusal of the judge, but if the judge went ahead and presided over the indictment, it would probably end up with the judge being disbarred or removed from the bench or something. That's at least what I understand to be the case. I could be wrong. I'm not a legal expert. Okay, if you are, you're fine to comment or contact me. Um, so McCabe's firing was greeted by this tweet from Trump, who said, "Andrew McCabe fired. A great day for the hardworking men and women of the FBI. A great day for democracy. Sanctimonious James Comey was his boss and made McCabe look like a choir boy. He knew all about the lies and corruption going on at the highest levels of the FBI." The Attorney General accepted an internal FBI recommendation that concluded that Mr. McCabe had made an unauthorized disclosure to the news media and lacked candor, including under oath, on multiple occasions. So if the FBI itself concluded that he did not have authorization, but he claims that Comey did give him authorization, then the question is, did Comey give him authorization? Did he give it to him in writing? Did he give it to him verbally? And if he did, then the real problem starts to become whether Comey violated the law by lying to Congress. We were talking about that earlier, circling back to that issue. This is from NPR, by the way, but I have the archive link, so you don't have to give clicks to NPR. I learned that from Sticks, Axe, and Hammer, by the way. Very, very nice channel, very nice information. The internal the internal FBI investigation recommended dismissal over McCabe's alleged lack of candor about contacts he had with a former Wall Street Journal reporter in 2016. Based on the report of the Inspector General, the findings of the FBI Office of Professional Responsibility, and the recommendation of the department's senior career official, I have terminated the employment of Andrew McCabe effective immediately. Sessions said the FBI expects every employee to adhere to the highest standards of honesty, integrity, and accountability. As the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, stated, all FBI employees know that lacking candor under oath results in dismissal and that our integrity is our brand. Sessions also said in explaining his decision. Get this. Sessions also said in a statement issued immediately after his termination was announced, McCabe said the decision was politically motivated. The picture is a tale of what can happen when law enforcement is politicized, public servants are attacked, and people who are supposed to cherish and protect our institutions become instruments for damaging those institutions and people. McCabe said, "Here is the reality," he added. "I'm being singled out and treated this way because of the role I played, the actions I took, and the events I witnessed in the aftermath of the firing of James Comey. The release of this report was accelerated only after my testimony to the House Intelligence Committee revealed that I would corroborate former Director Comey's accounts of his discussions with the president. The OIG's focus on me and this report became a part of an unprecedented effort by the administration, driven by the president himself, to remove me from my position, destroy my reputation, and possibly strip me of a pension that I worked 21 years to earn. The accelerated release of the report and the punitive actions taken in response make sense only when viewed through this lens. McCabe announced his retirement from the Bureau abruptly in January, and it was to take effect Sunday. So that would be today. His dismissal, just days before he was set to retire, puts his full pension and benefits package in jeopardy and is an inglorious end to a career of almost 22 years with the Bureau. So yeah, there's all these things that are being brought up, especially the $700,000 that his wife received from a political super PAC run by Terry McAuliffe, who was one of Hillary Clinton's supporters. And then by mid-December 2017, before McCabe was set to testify behind closed doors with the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Trey Gowdy, Republican of South Carolina, alluded to McCabe's rocky standing. I'll be a little So he testified behind closed doors, and I'm wondering if perhaps some of the things he said behind closed doors could also end up being used in a court against him because he's still under oath. So Gowdy said, "I'll be a little surprised if he's still an employee of the FBI this time next week," said Gowdy, who is also a member of the House Judiciary Committee, which has oversight responsibility for the Bureau. McCabe served as acting director of the FBI for 3 months in 2017 after Trump abruptly fired James Comey, and before the current director, Christopher Wray, was sworn in. McCabe made news in a congressional hearing in May by contradicting Trump. The White House had said Trump fired Comey because he had lost the confidence of the FBI's rank and file agents and workers, but McCabe, when asked, said that was not so. Director Comey enjoyed broad support within the FBI and still does to this day, McCabe told lawmakers soon after the president had ousted Comey. Behind the scenes, Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz was continuing to investigate Comey and McCabe and the Bureau's handling of an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. The IG's office drafted a report that is believed to include the allegation that McCabe lacked candor with investigators about his contacts with a Wall Street Journal reporter. In addition, the statement from Sessions late Friday said the Office of the Inspector General and the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility also faulted McCabe for an unauthorized disclosure to the news media. Accordingly, the OPR recommended that McCabe lose his job. So people in McCabe's camp said earlier this week that he has an explanation for any inconsistencies in his account of the conversations with the journalists. And in each instance, he went back and corrected the record, often citing the chaos around him and the FBI at the time. He had followed up with investigators as part of the Justice Department process. In his statement Friday, McCabe explained the events this way. The investigation flows from my attempt to explain the FBI's involvement and my supervision of investigations involving Hillary Clinton. I was being portrayed in the media over and over as a political partisan accused of closing down investigations under political pressure. The FBI was portrayed as caving under that pressure and making decisions for political rather than law enforcement purposes. Nothing was further from the truth. In fact, this entire investigation stems from my efforts, fully authorized under FBI rules, to set the record straight on behalf of the Bureau and to make clear that we were continuing an investigation that people in DOJ opposed. So McCabe added that his contacts with the reporter were not a secret, were known to others at the FBI at the time, including then Director Comey, were typical of the exchanges with the media he regularly oversaw as deputy director, and were also the kind of work he continued under Director Wray. So it says he continued to talk to the media after the new FBI director came in. He said the investigation subsequently focused on who I talked to, when I talked to them, and so forth. McCabe also said in his statement, during these inquiries, I answered questions truthfully and as accurately as I could amidst the chaos that surrounded me. And when I thought my answers were misunderstood, I contacted investigators to correct them. In January, when Wray attempted to move McCabe into another job to limit the FBI's embarrassment when the IG report became public, McCabe abruptly announced his retirement. His plan was to use up accumulated leave he was due before his previously scheduled retirement this month. Trump and his supporters grouped McCabe with what they call other bad actors inside the FBI, including 2 employees who exchanged text messages critical of Trump in 2016. That would be Strzok and Page. That revelation also has embarrassed the FBI and fueled critics' accusation that people inside the Bureau abused their power to target Trump out of personal animus. And then it goes through a lot of the reactions here. So basically, what I'm saying here is this. So if those contacts with the media were so regular and so consistent with the FBI policy, they shouldn't have been. Why did it need to be off the record? Most of those communications, by the way, if it was a leak and it's from confidential sources, by the way, and this is supposedly not confidential sources, what are they called? I think they call it confidential sources in media. So, the media calls them confidential sources. Now, if McCabe said that, if he's saying here that this is something that's regular and the FBI does it all the time, then there would be no need for confidentiality. He would be able to say it out in the open, and that's why this whole story stinks. So I don't know what you guys think. please comment below. I don't know if he'll ever be charged with anything, but I would hope he could be. The question is, how deep is the rot in the country? Can you find a judge that would actually properly hear the case? Can you find a prosecutor who would actually um, prosecute the case against McCabe faithfully and without letting him off the hook? I don't know. Also, you still want to give him his due process under the law, even though this is a guy who's basically the entire premise of these people's side was to deny due process to the people in the Trump investigation, whether it was Flynn, even Manafort, who did do some wrong things. He did do that money laundering and things like that. There's still a such thing as due process and the presumption of innocence. And if McCabe, even if McCabe did deny other people the presumption of innocence and due process, um, under our Constitution, he's still entitled to them. The question is, will we be able to deliver now that they've completely wrecked the entire justice system and the Justice Department itself? So that's it. This is Ramon again. Bold like a leopard. Please comment, share, subscribe to my other media channels. I'm also on Gab now, getting more following on Gab. I'll be sharing more stuff on Gab and Twitter and those places as I develop more and more videos and cooperate with more people. So have a great Sunday, and I'll talk to you later.